Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Seddon and Lacey's Comic Stash. As part of the Renaissance Men podcast conglomerate of joy, ring the bell, like, subscribe, all the YouTubey stuff. You should all know that by now. You know how YouTube works. And if you're listening to us audio only, why? Come and see our faces for one thing. But if you are, rate, subscribe using whatever podcast playing device of your selection.
I noticed you called us a network there, and I think in a previous episode we referred to ourselves as the new Disney. But let's go with a network, because the last network I knew of was the WWE network, and they sold themselves for $1 billion, didn't they? So
Yep.
next week if we sell this network for $1 billion, we'll come on in suits made of gold. If we don't come on in suits made of gold, it's because we've recorded back to back, or that £1 billion check hasn't cleared yet. And I say check, do people even use checks anymore?
I mean, I want it as a giant novelty check.
Oh, it'd be bloody brilliant. We could bring it on. In fact, what we could do is we could cut it in half, and you could have one half in your house, and we could kind of piece them. Oh God,
Hold them together.
Piece them together. Yeah, hold them together. Of course, if they send it to me, that would require me getting it into the post and to you. And as you know as well as I do, that's a trickier thing than we actually think, is that as a box moves around my house rather than the postal system to you. But we all have our weaknesses. Mine is going to the post office.
Exactly. So this week's show is a crossover from a earlier show back when we did our favorite runs all that way back in episode 2.
When, feels so long ago now, doesn't
it?
When we were young, we were fresh-faced. We thought we had the world in our hands, and now we are bitter and twisted, and we're going back to see whether that bitter and twistedness has affected our love of these products.
So with this one and the next episode, they will both be about the same thing. This one is, I read one of your top 5s, not the exact one, because I went back to the beginning, because your top 5 was book number 7 of this run.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, what a pain in the arse to pick something right in the middle of a run and go, no, there you go, buy shit tons and read shit tons to get to the point that I say is really good. But yes.
So I read the first of the Walking Dead books, which I put back on the shelf, so I can't remember what issue 1 is called. But it is the start point of Rick's journey into the zombie apocalypse. First things first, I will say, I fucking love the black and white art style.
It really is good, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, it's one of those. I was like, when I first sort of said about it, and I was like, I'm intrigued, but I don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah.
It works so well.
Well, it's odd, isn't it? Because black and white comic books, and my God, like, to anyone listening to this who loves black and white comic books and has done for years, and who feel free to sort of drop in a comment on any of our either podcast bits or this, what a fucking idiot I am. But I must admit, for the longest period of time, I'd always equated black and white with the comic strips you get in newspapers, and manga, and also kind of the odd indie here and there where you thought, oh, what a shame they couldn't afford a colorist. And I think I'd never really dabbled in sort of like a mainstream kind of black and white. And I think I thought of it, if I'm really honest, as kind of the poor relation until this. And it kind of really opened my eyes to going, we don't need no stinking color. If the story's told right and it's drawn right, I think actually the lack of color brings a massive amount to this story.
Yeah. So just going on the visuals before we sort of go into anything else, there are bits on there where they use white as an expression. So like when they're firing guns and things like that, just using a white section just looks so pretty. And the thing is, you're so used to seeing like oranges and reds and things like that with the firing of a gun, and you think you're going to miss it. You really don't.
Oh, I know I know we've talked about this sort of thing like in movies, like when we did the recent and God, don't know how recent it will be with the release schedule, but when we're talking about some of the effects that we have in things like old school horror movies, I think sometimes the removal of all of those bells and whistles that maybe we get used to in so many things actually makes the creators be more creative. And I don't know whether I must admit I've never kind of read an interview, if I have, I've forgotten, as to was the choice of black and white a pure choice, or was it because they were putting this out through Image, and at the time, I mean, Kirkman didn't really have a big name in the industry, whether it was to save our costs, we'll go black and white. But either way, yeah, I mean, I think it allows them to do things visually that you don't see in every comic book out there.
Yeah, and it's like with the gore moments, I think the fact that they are black and white makes them stand out more, because you're not looking at big red spurts out of the heads and, you know, the weird coloration of a zombie's head and things like that. It is really, really fucking cool.
They look really, zombies especially, don't they? They look really cool black and white. They look even more, let's say, shambolic, you know, like that kind of degradation of their body even comes across, because we're so used to, as you say, seeing like kind of the rotten flesh or everything kind of falling away. But I think when they're simplistically brought back to black and white, it absolutely stands out for me. Like a great choice if it was a choice.
Yeah. So obviously art style got me straight in. I banged this out in an afternoon waiting for the better half to, because she'd gone to the beer festival and I'd finished work, went into the pub near the beer festival because I wasn't in the trade session, had a couple of beers and bashed through it in an hour. And it was a wonderfully spent hour. Obviously the story, because I had seen the first series of the Walking Dead.
And again, I'm quite interested you mentioned that, because I think it is, especially as it's the first volume, something well worth picking up is kind of comparatively like how you felt against the first season of the TV show. But yeah, sorry, crack on. There's me interrupting as ever.
Obviously, I knew the story, I knew the characters, which helps, because some of them do look different to what the actors did. But you know who's who fairly quickly, and it gets over that first sort of part of the story better than the TV show did.
Yeah,
and the desperation in Rick as he comes out and comes around and doesn't know what the fuck's going on. Also, all the stuff with Laurie and Carl being the annoying little shitbag. But yeah, I fucking really, really enjoyed this as a story. And
to jump a little bit ahead, I will say now, if you enjoyed Volume 1 as a story, I think you're going to fucking love this. I think you're going to love Volume 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc., etc. Now, it does have an end. Like, it does run to a point, and the creators end the series, and they had an end point for it, and it's long. I want to say it runs to about 150 issues, and I probably should have checked this beforehand, but I wasn't necessarily going to jump towards the end. But it does have peaks and troughs. It does have some parts which, you know, maybe a lull in the story, and some bits that don't resonate with you. And I think because of the format that it is, there can be some things. I've certainly read some criticism about repetitiveness of some of the actions they do, whereas I always thought that's a bit of an unfair criticism, because we're quite repetitive creatures at the best of the time. And in the apocalypse, when you've had one good idea, you probably go, well, let's bang that idea out over and over again. But yeah, I do think this is something that if that first one grabs you, then certainly I reckon until trade paperback wise, till volume 10, I think you would definitely be loving it. So I'm glad that we've managed to infect you on this podcast with a new thing to kind of take forward, and I kind of hope you do. And if I get my arse in gear and get this box sent off to you, And also partially, if I could find volume 2, because I know I've got it in the house somewhere, I could feed you some more. But yeah, I mean, really nice to hear that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, so as I said, it's one of those of now. Obviously, I know that you're going to be frequenting me with some more. So obviously, as soon as I get it, I will be all over it.
Be down that pub for a 7-hour session as you get through 7 volumes. I imagine the speed that you get through them will slow down by the amount of beers you've consumed, though.
Yeah, probably.
Go, I banged through like first 3 volumes really quickly, but the 4th one took me 4 days to clear because I was absolutely battered.
But yeah, no, it's one of those. Obviously, it's the first time we've done something off each other's recommendations, and yeah, I am all up for more of them. And as you said, I don't know if it's a help or hindrance with knowing the story going in, because as you say, it's one of those of having watched the TV show, I know stuff.
Yeah.
I know further on in the story because I watched the first couple of seasons, but it didn't take away from any of it by knowing what's going on. And with how spectacular the visuals are, it is very much the same story but a very, very different telling.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, I mean, like, I'm sure we have covered this before, and we will cover it infinite amount of times because of the cross-contamination with TV, movies that there are now, and comic books. But quite often, and this goes right the way back to like novels and movies that are made out of novels, is I think it's really interesting when the way round that people watch it, or the way people consume it, shall I say. So yeah. I read the comic book and then I watched the TV show, and for me, the comic book is far superior. In fact, I stopped watching. I didn't mind the TV show season 1. I think there were some differences that I didn't like as much, and there were some decisions that I thought lessened some of the great bits, or some of the bits I really liked from the comic book. So that kind of put me off. And somewhere in season 2, there is a storyline that happens, and I'll be honest, I threw my toys out the pram. I went, fuck this, I'm not watching this anymore. You actually made this much worse than what I'd seen. But I also could probably understand some of the decisions why. But I did wonder, like, I probably am partial to the comic book more anyway, because I think often you do resonate more with the first format you saw it in.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that you know. So when you talk about like how the characters look very different, that was one of the things that was quite jarring for me going into the TV show. Is I'd seen them already. I knew what they looked like because I'd seen them on a page, and you know, like some of the casting's really good. Some of the characters look very similar, but of course they can't all look the same because there's not carbon copies of the people that the artist has chosen to draw necessarily out there. Not everyone can be Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, when the Nick Fury character was designed to look like Samuel L. Jackson. Now, that doesn't happen in every medium like this. So, I mean, in that first volume as well, I think even straight away to what happens in season 1, there's a couple of noticeable differences as well, isn't there? And I guess it depends how much you remember the TV show, but there's one particular character that dies very early that doesn't die in the TV show, if I remember rightly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the girls goes in the comic and is still in the TV show.
Yeah.
But again, I know from what you've told me that at some point Rick loses his hand in the comic.
Yeah.
It never happened in the TV show because needed it.
Yeah. Probably a real pain in the balls. Like, not only did Robert Kirkman, the writer, say he regretted it because it made writing the comic harder, but I imagine as well for the effects budget, they went, fuck off. He's in nearly every scene. We're not going to do a prosthetic like lost hand for every single scene this guy's in. So yeah, I think from a practicality standpoint, I can see why they don't do that bit. So I know you said about the art. I guess this is a time for me to potentially layer something in there to let you know something about the art. So the artist that you've seen leaves at the end of Volume 1.
Okay.
So as of Volume 2 and onwards, and in the comic book publication, the first 6 issues was written by Robert Kirkman, drawn by Tony Moore, and they created it together.
Yeah.
And come issue 7, a new artist comes in called Charlie Adlard. Now, there's a lot out there about what happened, but from what I can gather and from what you can piece together is that it probably wasn't a vile split between Kirkman and Moore at that point. But I think Tony Moore, who had done quite a bit of comic art at the time, and I really like him, I think he's a fantastic artist, had some other things on the docket and was looking to do them. But again, part of this is pieced together from interviews. And as we've just said, this becomes a really successful TV series that earns a lot of money. Yep. And bearing in mind this was a creator-owned project, let's just say it gets a bit bitter later on
when the money doesn't get split up.
yeah. So I think it is probably quite hard to piece together why exactly he stopped being the artist. But certainly for memory of the time, I remember it being kind of put as he had other creator-owned stuff he wanted to do. And it was a bit of a like, we've got this up and running, fire free Pretty Birds and go and get other people drawing on it. But later history kind of dictates in some bitter kind of out of court battles that maybe someone was pushed off it, maybe the money wasn't right, and it gets a bit nasty in the real world later on.
See
now, I mean, I'll be interested to see when you get Volume 2 what you think, especially as you were so impressed with the art. But I mean, just to let you know, it sticks with the black and white. It's not like new artist comes in, they go to color and do stuff like that. It does stick very much at the format that it has now from an art side. But yeah, as I say, a new artist.
Okay, so I'll see what I think of that one. It's like I was intrigued because obviously I wasn't watching it at the time, but I did watch the Negan stuff just because everyone was going about how brutal it was. I'm intrigued to see what that looks like in a black and white.
Dude, I don't want to spoil it for you, but that's fucking harsh. Like, I'd stopped watching the TV show when that bit happened, but my other half, Andrew, she carried on watching it, and it was that bit of where it's on in the background. And bearing in mind, they do deviate as they go through. They really do start to deviate, but there were some core moments that stay the same. And when we got to that kind of season, and when we got to that bit, she was kind of going, "Oh, I wonder who it will be." Da 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 da. And I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I know what's going to happen. I don't think you're going to like it." And I don't know. It is strange. Going back to what I said in my top 5, the thing that happens in the volume that you get to that put it onto my top 5 is more brutal than Negan, and was more impacting to me than the Negan bit was. But I think you're spot on with the black and white. So watching that happen on a TV show, I think I've almost become desensitized to seeing stuff on that now. But seeing it on a page in black and white, and subtly what you do see and what you don't see, like a friend of mine, Mark, was reading it at the same time as me. We were kind of reading it as it come out. We both sort of really kind of fallen for it as a thing, and I think we were probably almost simultaneously reading at home, and there was a bit of a WhatsApp moment where we go, "What the fuck? Oh, fucking hell." So yeah, again, I think that black and white storytelling of it is particularly effective, I think, for gruesome and brutal things, because we are not used to seeing gruesome and brutal things in that format.
Yeah. So yeah, there is bits of it that I'm intrigued to do, and as I said, once my care package, finally gets here. Hint.
Yep. I'm yep.
I'm definitely gonna carry on reading through them and see where it goes. But yeah,
I mean, I really like the writing in it. I know you sort of said earlier about like the setup of the characters, and of course this is, I guess, like a lot of first volumes when we carry through these during doing these podcasts is, a lot of those first volumes will be who's my cast, what is their peril, and who do they like, who don't they like, and
why should I care?
yeah, and I think one of the things that struck out for me really early doors is that I think he's very good at making, I want to say believable, but at least likable for those ones you're supposed to like.
Yeah.
But where I think he has quite a talent, and you'll see this as you go on, is the ones you're not supposed to like, you fucking hate him. This guy's really good at writing a shitbag.
Yeah.
And
Like, what's his face? His partner, and I can never remember his name.
oh yeah, what is
Who's
his name?
banging his missus.
I keep wanting to say Cole, but Cole's the son.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like him. Obviously, again, I already knew that that's what he does.
Yeah.
But the way that he's drawn, the way that they've written what he says and stuff, you're just like, you sleazy fuck puffin.
And you know what? I think he come across sleazier in the comic book than on the TV show. And maybe it's because I knew the actor. You know, we was talking about what they actually look like. I think knowing the actor and one having seen him be a bad guy and things before, but generally, you know, he's got the movie star good looks. But yeah, I think he comes across as even more of a, like, as you say, a sleazebag shit on the written page. Shane is his name.
Yeah. And you just fucking shoot this cunt.
You mentioned Carl, and you mentioned weird Carl. I'm glad that come across in volume 1, because get ready for Carl being very different. Certainly early doors, certainly in the early volumes, than he is in the TV show. He's let's say a lot weirder than you potentially saw in the TV show, and I thought it was pretty fucking weird in the TV show as well. But
just to say, in the TV show, he was an annoying little shit. Yeah. I just thought he was just like the world's most annoying kid in the TV show.
I feel like in volume 1 and beyond, he's got a bit more of a feel of rather than annoying, like a weird kid. But this isn't in any way to shame weird kids, but that weird kid. That weird kid that you think, he's going to become a serial killer at some point in his life. And I think that. But I did wonder when I was reading it whether that was just my general feeling about children coming through. Is that they're all potential serial killers, and you know, like, we're very lucky if they don't turn around and kill all of us. But yeah, I would say that. Shane feels very similar but noticeably different. But TV show, I think Carl, they changed quite a lot. Rick, he's the hero, isn't he? I mean, let's be honest. You're introduced to him. He's the first person. He's the first eye you see this world in. Very interesting as well, because it is in effect a world if we hadn't seen the TV show, we'd already seen, because it is the start of 28 days later is the start of The Walking Dead. But yeah, you know, you're introduced to the world, seeing through his eyes, and predominantly that's the story. But I think, again, you're already being introduced to that wider cast. So yes, he might be the hero, he might be your main character to focus on, but a lot of page time is given to fleshing out those people that he'll be living in the world with, and vice versa.
Which is that's a very well done. And the thing is, it also, none of it feels it's there just because it has to be. It's all very natural and sort of flows really, really well. So yeah.
I mean, to be honest, one of the things I like about this is I'm really keen to experience it again. So there's a lot of these, like the volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably up to like kind of volume 10-ish. Like, we're going back quite some way for me to read it, because I was reading this as it come out. And I say I was reading it as it come out. I was not smart enough to get issue 1 off the stands, because that's worth a bloody fortune now. And I wish I had been smart enough to get off the stands, but it hadn't been going long. I think we were on about issue 12 was when I picked it up. And one of the things that we said is it stood out to me on the shelf when I finally noticed it. But with a lot of the Image comics, but even the smaller press indies, it's often, and certainly at that time, a bit more of a risk, because you don't know how long these series are going to last, because they're trying to make their money. And it's not like Marvel, who may well give it 30 issues to see whether it does well. These things can disappear in 4 or 5 issues. And when you're relying only on the one writer and the one artist, as they were when they started off, if you've got an artist who takes his sweet time knocking out episodes, I mean, I've got in my single issue collections, I've got things where I bought the first and the second issue, and here we are 18 years later and the third issue still hasn't come out, but somewhere along the line the artist is saying, oh, I'm still working on that. But
it's coming.
So I think, like, sometimes with those, I almost didn't want to get too invested in them until I felt that they had some legs in them. And of course, when you're getting to around that, so when 2 story arcs in, you're going, well, at the very least, there's 2 story arcs for me to get. But even by that point, this is way before the TV show, the first issue felt too expensive for me. Oh, I regret that decision as well, because it wasn't very expensive at that point. I think it's probably going for about like 25 quid, whereas probably if I bought it, you're looking at thousands now to be able to sort of turn one of those over. But yeah, so context wise, it's been a long time since I've read them, and yes, I've seen the TV show since, and I do revisit some stories every now and again. But this is one that I guess I hadn't gone. What I tended to do with this is I've tended to dip in at certain moments. So because I've read the lot, there are certain story arcs where I go, oh yeah, I will go back and revisit that. So it will be quite nice to experience it again from the start. Something that I know I like, something I know I love, and coming back with it with some fresh eyes after time. But yeah, I'm really glad you liked it, especially, as I say, the art style, because it is. Oh, jarring might be a bit extreme, but we are so indoctrinated these days to colour, aren't we? It's colour, colour. I guess in the same way as if someone released a black and white movie, it's a really tough sell to get people to do it. I mean, there was that one, oh God, I can't remember the name of it, but the one that won Oscars a few years ago, Roma, which, you know, like, probably struggled to find an audience because a lot of audience went, oh, fuck off, it's black and white.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you might get that same sort of reaction to the comic book. Worth mentioning, though, for anyone who is watching this and is interested, there is a colour version. I think I mentioned it before. They have now started releasing coloured versions of it. I haven't touched it with a barge pole. I think because I like the black and white so much, I would heartily recommend the black and white. And I almost don't want to see the colour because I don't want it to be sullied. And we do get a bit of colour because the covers were in colour. So you know, you do get to see the colour in the world every now and again. But yeah, if you are, get the trades and go black and white, even if it's just for the first one, and see how you feel about it. Reading a comic book that is all black and white.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend it as a definite first one at least, because as you said, you can probably pick it up fairly cheap these days. Because
I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling if you're patient, I think every now and again Amazon knock it out for free on Kindle and things like that, if that's the way you want to consume it. But I think generally, as trades go, it's probably sold so well at this point, and they know it's such an entry point to be able to sell you another 15 volumes afterwards, that you can probably get it most of the time on a sale for probably like in around the £5 mark. Even if you tried the first volume and didn't like it, or you tried to follow the first volume and thought that's fine, but not for me, I think, you know, you couldn't buy a novel for that. So an absolute bargain for me.
It's on Amazon at the moment for the grand sum of £4.
There you go. And you know, like we said on our last episode about getting things at the right price point for you. But because it is a TV show and it's so popular, it kind of runs in reverse of, I think, a lot of industries where they go, well, we know we're going to sell a lot of these, so we can sell it at a cheaper unit price. So yeah, it won't be a costly thing. Of course, that's unless you then get obsessive about it. And I'm looking around to see if I can see it, but then you go, oh, do you know what? I'll buy the bloody hardcovers as well. Which is what I ended up doing because I liked it so much. No massive noticeable difference in the hardcovers other than it looking sexier on a shelf. You know, it's not like an oversized one or something like that. The pages are the same size, but you know, a great opening to this, and I found it very intriguing. I like zombies. I like zombie movies. No, I'm not saying I like every zombie movie. There's some trash out there as there is, and probably the heaviest criticism it got early is the similarity initially to 28 Days Later, but they gave me a compelling enough cast of characters that I wanted to come back for more, and that want was less about the zombie threat and more about the I wonder what's going to happen with, and so on and so forth. And I think it's a series that does that very well. The zombies are a danger. I'm not saying that they're not a danger, but sometimes it can almost feel incidental. You get so caught up in the conversation they're having or what is going on in their mundane part of their life. That all of a sudden then a zombie shows up and you go, oh, fuck, I forgot about them. Oh, they're screwed. That sort of thing.
Yeah. So this is the first of the crossover episodes. As always, like, subscribe, ring the bell, comments. We like comments.
We do. We really like comments. And I know we don't want to sound beggy about it, but a large part of doing this is I love talking to Lacey. He's a wonderful man. And I would only actively encourage everyone to put in comments so you can talk to Lacey as well and get the joy that I get on a very regular basis.
Exactly. As always, Mondays are Seddon's pop videos. We have the Stu gaming sessions on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You put the cult videos out usually on
Wednesday. Is the planned date for them, but that's the one that is my most wavy in the stuff that we release because I always say to myself, oh yeah, it's fine. I'll get home from work at a reasonable hour. I will just upload that. And you may ask the question, yeah, but you may ask the question, why the bollocks didn't you upload it before that? But we're producing a lot of content at the moment, so I have to also live life like wash, eat, breathe sometimes, and I need to keep a bit of a schedule running, and that's the one that I leave to the day so that everything else can be uploaded on time. Although a bit dubious on our Sunday releases. On this, always a Sunday, who knows what time, but we're going to get better. I am going to get better at making sure that our videos go out at a regular time, and I'm not going to say what it is on this, because hopefully I've already hit regularity by the time this one comes out. But once I actually have been regular for more than 1 week in a row, we will push that on the show. Because I mean, again, we'll take you watching this and listen to this at any time at your convenience. But I certainly know, as a consumer of these sort of things, I kind of like knowing when a video is going to drop, because I go, oh, I know that's there. So if I've got an hour to spare, then I know I can watch that, or I know it's going to be there for me when I want to consume it. So yes, that's on me. I will be getting better with the regularity of our releases.
And the one thing that's always regular, may not start on time, but it's always there around the same time, is the granddaddy of them all, the super.
Thank God.
Super show.
At first, I just assumed you were going to go for a poo joke, and I'd forgotten that we do the Friday night show. Yeah.
Is the mega show that is the Friday night show, where literally everything is fair game in the world of geek. So wrestling, films, video games, TV.
Yeah.
Me shitting on Hawkeye because it's fucking Home Alone.
It's, oh God, don't, man. Like, in fact, fuck it. We've got a minute or two because we're not in any schedule. Like, because I did try and shit on that on the Friday night podcast, but I was bombarded by positivity from Stu. But I'm with you. That trailer looks fucking terrible, doesn't it? Like, if there's ever a trailer you could release to make me not want to watch a show, like, make it look like a really shitty version of Home Alone, stick the Christmas stuff in the background, and it's such a shame. And don't get me wrong, I will watch the show, probably be forced with my arm up the back, but I will watch the show because it could be good. But my God, this doesn't make it look good. And I've read quite a lot of Hawkeye in my time. It's a comic book show. Let's get back to the reading. But specifically, some of the visuals that they have used for costumes and things like that, and some of the characters they introduced, is from a run that I love. It almost made my top 5. And my God, this trailer makes it look like they're going to take this run that I love, wipe their bums with it, and then thrust it back into the screen for me.
They're shitting on it for a great hype.
Yeah.
So, as always, thank you, Mr. Seddon, for a wonderfully short show. I know we got one in like under an hour.
Yep, and then that was our challenge, wasn't it? We said we always said at day one that we were going to try and mix up long, short, so there's a bit of variation on it, and we've not managed it so far. So yes, victory is ours.
So until next week, and we hear what Seddon thinks of one of my top 5, we bid you adieu.
Thanks for watching, and just remember, you can join the Cult of Egg by liking and subscribing to this YouTube channel. We release regular content where we talk about all things geek, all things pop culture, and all things that we're interested in. You can also come along and join the discussion on Facebook groups and Renaissance Cast. And you can join us on our Twitch channel where Stu regularly streams games. And if you'd like to support us, then please follow the link for the Patreon. Thanks very much.